David, how disappointing was the way the innings panned out after the first session, where you and Joe really seemed to get on top for a bit?
Yeah, pretty frustrating and disappointing to have lost 2 wickets like we did last night, and to get ourselves sort of back in a position where we could sort of get within touching distance of them is disappointing. But, we can talk about the guys that failed, but, ultimately one of Ruti or myself should have gone on and got a big 100 there and taken the pressure off those guys. So, a bit disappointing.
Were you kicking yourself after, I guess, once you got past your 50s after last week, the chat would have been to go on and go big?
Definitely. We can talk about taking 20 wickets and what have you in Australia. There's big runs as well. There's big hundreds that win you test matches. And, last test match we were in a position, myself and Ruti, to score hundreds. And we didn't do it, and we were in the same position here. And both times we've been sort of found short as a sort of a batting unit compared to the Australian unit. So that's something we need to do better from this next innings onwards, that if someone gets in, to make sure that we get that big 100.
Do you take any real satisfaction from your last two knocks, where you have been on top of the game for probably England's 2 best sessions of a pretty rough few days?
Yeah, obviously pleased to have got some runs, but at the same time disappointed not to have kicked on and got that 100. Test hundreds aren't easy to come by, so to get to 82 innings in a row and get out pretty softly today was disappointing.
Go ahead, Dan.
Dawid, can you just talk us through that period, I suppose, after lunch when Cameron Green was bowling with Nathan Lyon, and you guys had you'd had a good first session, you had to reset a little bit after a break, but they did seem to put on quite a lot of pressure in terms of balls in good sequences and really putting the pressure on.
Yeah, they did. Nathan is obviously a fantastic bowler. His record speaks for itself, and how well he's bowled so far in these 2 test matches. And then Cam Green came and bowled a really good over to Ruti there. And that's what Test cricket is about. It's forcing an opportunity and a mistake. And I've said this before, the Australians are very good at, once they open that door, climbing through that door and getting 2 or 3 quick ones straight afterwards. That's been a little bit of a trend so far this tour and the last tour, and hopefully we can start learning from those mistakes and try and close that door quicker.
Were you feeling, I guess, immediately before you got out that you wanted to kind of get the scoreboard moving again and getting it going back your way, even though Joe had gotten out, or what was going through your mind?
No, not really. I think out here, obviously having the intent to score is obviously the one thing. You have to be able to put the pressure back on the bowlers, whether that's by scoring, leaving, or playing late. It's also identifying certain periods of the game where, the Aussies are going to attack you and trying to counter that. Looking back, probably should have left that ball and hopefully could have still been batting. But, that's a learning curve for myself.
So just looking at your record in Australia, I guess, as opposed to other countries, do you feel like, though, that you get yourself in easier or anything in Australia? Like, do you adjust better to the bounce on the Australian wickets, perhaps? Or, what do you make of that?
Oh, I don't know. I feel like when you bat in England, sometimes a ball can pitch on 4th stump and it can hit your middle stump, your off stump, your outside edge, your middle, your pad, whatever. Whereas out here, it's traditionally slightly truer, that if it pitches in one area, unless it's swinging or reversing it, you can tend to trust the trueness of the wickets. Whereas in England, that sort of in-between length can get you inside or outside. And that's the challenge of batting in different countries.
And I guess just how important is it going to be, looking forward to tomorrow night, where realistically there's every chance that you guys will find yourself batting late in the day, to try and have, I guess, the best position set up for day 5, where, you saw in the first session today, that's generally been the easiest time to bat?
Yeah, look, we've got our work cut out with the bat. I think the first thing is to try and put them under pressure with the ball. I know, our bowlers have had a good stint and they've been in the dirt for a couple of days. But, if they can come out and make some inroads early, I think that will give us a little bit of momentum for that evening session. But that last session is key. It's not. I can't see it being a shortened one like it was last night. So, if we can get through that session, maybe 1 wicket down, then, we're in every position to bat out the day. As you said, it gets slightly easier off the seamers. Nathan might be a bit of a challenge with the way it sort of ended up turning so far today. So hopefully it turns less as the test goes on.
John Barrett and then we'll finish with Will.
David, a couple of the batsmen seem to be struggling. How difficult is it to sort of recapture form and confidence in a tour like this when there's no matches in between and the tests come thick and fast?
Yeah, look, it's obviously challenging. We've only had 3 innings so far. A couple of the boys have had some scores. But I think I'll highlight it again. It's once we get in, it's actually making those big scores. We can talk about the guys that haven't performed, but it's when you get in, it's actually making sure you count. Marnus did it in this innings, and Travis Head did it in the last innings. In the last Test match, and that's sort of where the game sort of slipped a little way with the ball and put us under more pressure. And that's something we haven't done well enough so far. Is once we get in, making it count. So whoever it is moving forward, whether they're out of form or in form, it's making sure we actually make it count when we do get in.
And batting with Joe, is that a good experience? I mean, does he sort of exude calmness? Is there much chat between overs?
A little bit. I've been fortunate enough to play a bit of Joe in some white ball stuff as well. So, being around him is good. He's, his numbers suggest he's one of the best batters that's ever played the game, and he's still got a lot of batting to do in his young career. But yeah, it's nice to watch how he goes about it. He seems to find a way in all the conditions that he plays on all different wickets. He finds a way of rotating and putting pressure on the bowler in his own way. Every time we had a joke this morning, every time I look up, he's catching me, and I don't like him catching me that much when we're batting together. But he seems to find a way every single time to just tick over, and he's just incredibly consistent. So it's good for me to watch and learn.
Dawid, you mentioned a few times that in these conditions, when you get in, you have to go big. And you also said that it was a soft dismissal today. And Joe Root was pretty upset with himself as well. So what can you do to make sure that doesn't happen? Is it just concentration? Is it just a technical thing where you just drop for a second and it happens? So what can you do to work on it and make sure it doesn't happen?
Well, it's just making sure we execute better. Cricket's a game where you have to score, and you have to look to score, and you're going to make mistakes along the way. If you look at, Rooty, I'm sure if he looks back, he'd probably say he'd wanted to leave that ball, and that's, I probably didn't want to cut that ball to first slip. And, you look back at that and you think, was that poor execution? Was it poor concentration? In my case, that was just poor execution. Sorry, I hope that's answered your question.
No, and you said you didn't want to talk about guys who aren't performing, but you've played a lot of cricket with Joss Buttler. Is it just short of confidence, or he just seems to be edging balls that he wouldn't otherwise? How do you read his game at the moment?
Yeah, I think he got 40 and 20 or something in the first innings, batting at 7, which is not too bad as a keeper. He's hitting the ball exceptionally well. This is his first time playing red ball cricket in Australia. We only had one warm-up game, so he's still trying to find a way that works for him out here, and that's probably the downside of not having a normal tour preparation out here, is for guys to get out slightly earlier and learn whether what they do works for them out here or not. But knowing Joss the way the character he is and what he's done in his career, he'll find a way. That's what's made him such a good player over the years.
Hi, David. You returned to the Test side in the middle of the summer. Do you feel like at the end of what is a pretty bruising year for England's batters, apart from Joe, did you feel like you were coming back into an environment where the batters were lacking a bit of confidence, where the group didn't really feel they knew that they were exactly where they wanted to be?
I think when you're not part of the group, you don't see that side of it. I think if I was 12th or 13th man and just part of the group, I might have been able to see that, but I haven't seen that at all in the 4 games now that I've been around. Everyone knows their game. Whether we've been short of runs or not as a group, that doesn't mean that guys walk around sulking or doubting their game. Everyone walks out with the belief that they're going to score runs. And as I said, it's just trying to find a way. It's very easy to keep saying, oh, we're unlucky and we nicked a few and this and that and we played some bad shots, but we actually need to find a way of putting some runs on the board as a collective.